Lu Sheng obtained the latest weapon, the red crystal dragon pattern spear, and with this spear, his strength could increase by at least 30%. Upon his first visit to the weapon training room with the weapon, how much of the rigorous training could he complete? Just now, as Lu Sheng was leaving the mission hall to head to the Martial Sage Tower, he was informed by a courier that a special item needed to be signed for. This item was the Ascending Dragon congratulatory gift from the provincial governor Xia, for which Lu Sheng expressed his gratitude, his hand emitting a cyan aura. Subsequently, under Lu Sheng's control, a spear broke free from the box, the body of the spear bursting with brilliant flames. According to the courier's introduction, the body of the spear was forged from a large amount of mithril dense iron and even mixed with the extremely precious dense gold, while the spearhead was crafted from blaze crystal, making it a quasi-grandmaster level weapon, the red crystal dragon pattern spear. Looking at such flashy effects in his hands, Lu Sheng's mouth twisted into a smile. The congratulatory gift from provincial governor Xia was indeed generous. Please tell them I really like it. With this flashy spear, Lu Sheng's combat power could now increase by at least 30%, and paired with the natural breathing method for elemental control, he believed he could face a grandmaster head-on. His next task was to familiarize himself quickly with the red crystal dragon pattern spear. According to the Valkyrie's memories, establishing a connection between the person and the spear was necessary to create a spear with a soul, which would be hundreds of times stronger than ordinary cold weapons. The method of cultivation was to practice continuously, sharpening with blood, and what he needed to absorb was the blood of the strong. Only true life and death battles, using the flesh and blood of others as the soul and willpower as food, could nurture the formidable presence of a heavenly weapon. However, the next moment, Lu Sheng was dumbfounded. Why is there a queue again? Do students from St. Martial University also need to register and queue up to enter the Martial Saint Tower? Hearing the explanation from the nearby administrator, of course, you have to queue. Don't you know how many people apply every day? There are at least tens of thousands, and there are only 30 rooms in the Martial Saint Tower, allowing only 30 people in at a time. Since you are a student from Holy Martial University, you already receive preferential treatment. Those martial artists outside need to apply through the Martial Association and then queue up, and they might not get a turn even once a year. You might be able to enter in 3 to 5 days, as the waiting time depends on how long the people inside can last. Helplessly, Lu Sheng could only ask the administrator to notify him in advance when it was his turn. Seeing that Lu Sheng was a handsome guy, the administrator agreed to hold a room for Lu Sheng for 10 minutes. Otherwise, he might have to wait another 3 to 5 days. It's also strange how so many people rush to get in. The martial will of the Martial Sage Tower can be felt even from afar, like a sword soaring into the skies, vast and solid. Compared to this, the bit of Grandmaster will in one's mind is like a firefly to the bright moon, incomparable in brilliance. It seems that the gap between a 7th level Grandmaster and a 9th level Martial Sage is truly like heaven and earth. It's normal for such precious resources to attract many people. I'll go to the weapon training room today to familiarize myself with the new weapon. The next moment, sorry, the rooms are full now. Lu Sheng was flustered. It seems that the unlucky ones even choke while drinking water. When did the 7th Saints Martial University have so many students? Wasn't it promised that each person would have 100 square meters of space? Indeed, today is not a good day to go out. However, just as Lu Sheng was walking to the door, a girl grabbed him. Wait, Lu Sheng, someone just left. I'm adding you in right now. Hurry over. While Lu Sheng was still confused. Do you know me? The girl cheerfully replied. Who doesn't know you on campus these days? Your video is very popular. Okay, thank you very much. However, what puzzled the girl was that this demon lord was very polite and not as fierce as described online. It's just unknown if his strength is also as exaggerated as it is online. Lu Sheng also smoothly arrived at the training room and pulled out his massive red crystal dragon pattern spear. Meanwhile, in a large courtyard, a man was practicing swordsmanship, his sharp gaze filled with murderous intent. The massive boulder was shattered in just 2 seconds. Seeing this, a young girl beside him clapped and said, "Impressive, Yi Xian. Your cutting through autumn move is much more powerful than before. If Xiaolan were to challenge you again, he might lose within 100 moves." Yi Xian, the top student in the school, stated, "Just a defeated underling. I no longer consider him a competitor. My targets are the top 10 of the 7 Saints list. Only they are worthy to be my opponents." The twin-tailed girl thought that with his current strength, he could probably make it into the top 10 of the 7 Saints list, but Yi Xian said it was impossible, as he had not yet formed even a trace of his own martial will. While the gap from level 6 to 7 is insurmountable even for the top talents, getting stuck there is less about talent and more about luck, so he was not discouraged. What I need to do now is not just practice, but also spend time understanding my own mind. Then, the girl handed her phone to Yi Xian, showing him a video of an interesting new student for him to watch. He is this year's Ascending Dragon. He defeated Teacher Lu in the first class on elective cold weapons. Teacher Lu was too careless. However, the experienced Yi Xian noticed something odd. Teacher Lu is at an intermediate level of intricate mastery in spear techniques and is the strongest among the weapon class teachers. It wouldn't be possible for her to be so careless. endless. So the only explanation is that this new student, Lu Sheng, is very strong, at least at a high level of intricate mastery or even at the control realm. Hearing such praise for a new student, the girl joked, seeing such a fierce junior, does the old student at the top of the list feel a chill down your spine? But Yi Xian remained calm, as his 4 years had not been spent in vain. Real combat and realms differ, and not just anyone is qualified to be his opponent. This Lu Sheng is indeed a prodigy, and we might meet him very soon. On the other side, Lu Sheng arrived as he wished at training room number 8, which had a large space at both ends, and, from its appearance, somewhat resembled the agility training rooms of the Genius Training Camp. As Lu Sheng pressed the start button, ding, the first stage of cold weapon training was about to begin. In an instant, Lu Sheng felt surrounded by several attacks, and with a turn of his spear in his hands, flames enveloped his entire body while the small beads on the walls began to move erratically. The next moment, they surged towards Lu Sheng like a tide. Lu Sheng, with a sharp glance back, formed an impenetrable defense with his spear, splitting every approaching iron ball into 2 halves, and in just a moment, the ferocious iron balls fell everywhere like raindrops. The next moment, ding, the training was completed, with a 20% completion rate for the first stage. Lu Sheng was dumbfounded. Does this mean I failed? Ding. It turns out that the training room does not allow the use of any means beyond one's physical strength, including fierce energy, elemental power, etc. Lu Sheng had an epiphany. I see. But thinking about it, if fierce energy were allowed along with cold weapons, it might demolish the training room. After all, the practice of skills also emphasizes the control of physical strength. In that case, let's do it again. This time, Lu Sheng didn't use any powers, relying solely on pure physical strength to face all the spiritual power iron ball attacks. Although it wasn't the all-encompassing instant kill of before, Lu Sheng was still able to dodge and defeat his opponents with each move. And during this dense barrage of iron ball attacks, which lasted for half an hour, Lu Sheng was surprised to find himself drenched in sweat. It seems the first stage has ended. As soon as he finished speaking, countless small balls swarmed towards Lu Sheng. Damn, it's endless. However, the moment Lu Sheng touched the small ball, he sensed something was off, because these beads were easily blown away by the wind pressure, revealing they were actually made of wood. Indeed, this was about honing the skills of martial artists, testing their control over cold weapons. The iron balls turning into wooden ones seemed to make them less lethal and slower, seemingly reducing the difficulty. But in reality, it was the opposite. The lighter the shot beads, the more they were affected by air currents, and they could be blown away by the wind from a sword or spear before hitting the target, making their trajectories utterly unpredictable. Given this, Lu Sheng closed his eyes. Although he could no longer see, he could still sense the trajectories of each bead, achieving the state of drawing a sword to cut water. However, what came next was even more absurd. After the wooden balls, there were plastic balls, followed by popcorn, and then feathers. Hey, don't make it too absurd, even I will get tired. At this moment, each feather was like a battlefield martial artist, with edges sharp as blades aiming at Lu Sheng. Lu Sheng's gaze gradually became more solemn, and then he threw his spear, which pierced the surrounding down like an arrow. Then, the spear returned to Lu Sheng's hand like a returning arrow, leaving no trace of its path, as if moving through a vacuum, truly killing invisibly, executing without shedding blood. Unexpectedly, after just a few hours of practice in the cold weapon training room, the synergy between me and the red crystal dragon pattern spear dramatically improved. At this rate, I should be able to cultivate the spear sense and smoothly enter the next soul-nurturing stage soon. It must be said that this training room has been an eye-opener for me at St. Martial University, utilizing the properties of each material to enhance certain attribute changes, going beyond simple control of cold weapons. Not only must no martial power be revealed, but precise control of physical strength is also required, something impossible to achieve without decades of hard work. Even I, with my level 4 spear technique and the memories of 2 grandmaster martial artists, nearly failed several times. This training session essentially solidified those unstable parts of Lu Sheng's body, even solidifying his martial arts foundation by 3 parts. He could even feel the bottleneck of the intricate mastery realm starting to loosen, and the second form of the complete martial path beckoning him. While Lu Sheng was imagining the storyline, he suddenly realized that there was no more noise. Why hasn't the next stage of training started yet? The next moment, ding, all 5 stages of training in this room have been completed. At this moment, Lu Sheng's mouth hung open. That's it? Are you kidding me? Looks like I'll have to come back next Thursday and keep going until I can't feel anything. Meanwhile, at the reception, Red Hair was complaining. She had come for 3 consecutive days only to find it fully booked each time. Just as she lamented her bad luck, Lu Sheng's exit gave her a big surprise, and fortunately, she could finally enter the training room. As she happily scurried to room number 8, the moment she opened the door, she was shocked. Damn, how did this turn into a dump? Red Hair, furious, punched the wall, looking at that person, so clean and tidy. I never expected him to be such a trash king. As she finished speaking, a robot slowly emerged from a corner, cleaning program starting. Red Hair looked on with disdain. How messy does someone have to be to create this much trash? With popcorn and feathers no less. Was someone camping out watching movies here, and even roasting a turkey on the side? But then, Red Hair seemed to realize something. Usually, nothing but cold weapons are allowed in the training room, not even water, and trash only comes from the training process itself. She hurriedly ran to check the equipment, which still displayed Lu Xing's information showing 100% completion of the 5th stage. Red Hair was stunned, because in the history of the 9 St. Martial universities, the highest anyone had ever reached was the 3rd stage. The 3rd stage was already equivalent to reaching the intricate mastery realm. The 5th stage must be above the control realm. She could hardly believe that this young man, who didn't look older than her, could be connected to a grandmaster. The next moment, a buzzing of electricity came from the control panel, accompanied by her puzzled gaze. The training room suddenly became spotless with a bang, and just out of the training room, Lu Xing downed a cup of his own golden dragon saliva. Lu Xing could distinctly feel that the absorption was even better than before. As the stellar body refinement technique was deployed, the internal breath of the indestructible golden body also began to dance. Afterwards, Lu Xing was surprised to see that the training speed for the 2nd stage of the indestructible golden body was twice as fast as usual. It seems that this time a lot of subtle areas inside his body were awakened, which then extracted them. Lu Xing could feel that, at this rate, the completion of the 2nd stage of the indestructible golden body could be halved, and he might completely finish it before ascending to Grandmaster. However, in the following days, Lu Xing still repeated the same routine, practicing the stellar body refinement technique for 2 hours each morning, then attending classes in the exotic beast subject, checking the Q progress at the Martial Sage Tower during meal times, and finally returning to the cold weapons training room to go through the 5th level stage until he was physically exhausted, and then practicing in his dreams. In just 1 week, Lu Xing's vital energy and blood value tripled, and he was now capable of delivering 5 times the combat power with a single strike. If it weren't for being in the training room, he wouldn't have known his body had so many gaps and flaws, which although trivial now, would become more apparent later. If I tried to fill these gaps at level 8 or 9, probably wouldn't be possible. Today, Lu Xing once again walked out of the training room, with Red Hair quietly following behind him. As soon as Lu Xing left, she called her friends to come in. When the door opened, everyone's mouths gaped. It's really the 5th stage. I didn't think it actually existed. They had thought this stage was just for show. Looking at the feather in their hands, can this thing be hit? Everyone hurried to take videos and post them online, but Red Hair said it was no use. I already posted it days ago and nobody at school believed me. They even thought I photoshopped it and just blocked my account. Do you think Lu Xing's strength has already transcended the top student on the elder student list? Chenyi Xian? Red Hair then said, you still don't understand the significance of the 5th stage. His mastery in cold weapons is at least at the control realm, and challenging higher levels is as easy as drinking water for him below the Grandmaster level. Perhaps only the words unmatched in his own tier suit him best, not to mention the top 10 of the elder student list. Even the top 10 of the 7 saints list probably couldn't stand against him. Hearing Red Hair's explanation, the others were panicking, and the most infuriating thing was knowing such an incredible secret about Lu Xing, but not being able to talk about it, as no one would believe this fact. Red Hair suggested that everyone simply keep quiet, as given Lu Xing's way of doing things, such a secret shouldn't stay hidden for too long. Meanwhile, Lu Xing's training was interrupted by a text message. After queuing for a whole week, it was finally his turn at the Martial Sage Tower. 10 minutes was enough time for him to take a bathroom break, shower, change his clothes, and head over. Just as he was about to leave, a AA-rated mission from the mission center also came through, and it was urgent. After some thought, Lu Xing chose the mission because, as a student, he had privileges at the Martial Sage Tower and would get his turn within the week. However, AA-rated credit missions were not available every day, so Lu Xing promptly headed to the mission center after getting ready. On the other side, the 7th Martial Sage Tower was about to face a major challenge, because among the 7 St. Martial universities, each has its own Martial Saint Tower, and students using their school's Martial Saint Tower can enjoy certain privileges, which is a source of pride for St. Martial universities. However, students from other St. Martial universities can also challenge the towers at other schools, and if the challenger breaks the highest floor record of the tower, the defending side will lose the right to use the Martial Sage Tower for a year. A figure slowly appeared at the registration desk of the 7th Martial Sage Tower, and when the registrar saw the name, she was so frightened, because the visitor was Miao Renxiong, the one ranked 6th on the 7 saints list, who was now fiercely approaching to challenge the tower. On the other side, after eating 200 pounds of hamburgers, Lu Xing slowly took out the mission letter. There was a note on top of the letter, relevant information, destroy after reading. The mission can fail, but you only have one life. This mission was to capture a gang of criminals responsible for numerous serious crimes, bearing the guilt of hundreds of human lives, including over 30 police officers. Capturing or killing one of the criminals would reward 10 million in cash and 10 academic credits. Capturing the leader, Ma Guiyun, would multiply the reward by 10. The The mission details seemed quite appealing. If he could complete several missions in a row involving a large group of people, he could quickly earn enough credits. Just as Lu Sheng was about to destroy the letter, a few photos fell out from behind it. These were 2 postcards, and both individuals were graduating students from the 3rd St. Martial University and were 6th level martial artists with a high mission completion rate. Lu Sheng's eyes then suddenly widened, and the letter in his hands burned to ashes. I didn't expect to have teammates. I hope they don't hold me back. The scene shifts to that night, a young girl grumbling impatiently. Is this jerk coming or not? He really has no sense of time. The next moment, a man extinguished his cigarette. What's the rush? It's not even the agreed time yet, is it? Hearing the young girl curse, how many tons of smoke have you had? Didn't you see it's joking me? She then decided not to wait for Lu Sheng, and the 2 of them went straight to carry out the mission, considering Lu Sheng a rookie who wouldn't be of much help anyway. Moreover, he's just a freshman with a mission completion rate of 0%, clearly his first time on a mission, a kid who hasn't even seen blood yet. Really don't understand what those people at the 7th St. Martial University are thinking. However, the man pointed out that Lu Sheng is also a 6th level and this year's Ascending Dragon Martial Arts top scholar. To have such strength at this age, his talent is definitely terrifying. Hearing this, the girl got even angrier, so he came to earn some glory. The 7th St. Martial University really is something, sending their own genius to us instead of taking care of him themselves. I really don't have the time to babysit this little brat. This mission could kill someone in minutes. Just then, Lu Sheng's voice arose from behind as he slowly approached, dragging his weapon case. Afterwards, the 3 of them drove to their destination, during which the girl kept nagging and impatiently asking Lu Sheng if he had brought his weapons, and even went through some of the tasks listed on the mission list, noting that given their current situation, this mission was still very difficult. 2 hours later, the trio arrived at a factory in the distance. The girl solemnly warned Lu Sheng, stating that this was a real bandit suppression operation and people could indeed die, and that it was still not too late to regret coming. Seeing Lu Sheng nod affirmatively, the blue-haired girl disdainfully opened the car door. I hope you truly understand and aren't just pretending. After hiding the car, they then headed towards the factory up ahead. The group moved swiftly along the walls and soon reached the outer wall of the factory, where 3 people were seen conversing above. Judging from the situation, the mission seemed harder than Blue Hair and her partner had anticipated, and the person they were observing was the bandit leader, Ma Guiyun. Due to the distance, they couldn't discern the opponent's strength, so they had to take a risk and move closer. Then they shouted, Lu Sheng, did you hear that? Let's go. But at this moment, Lu Sheng had already extended his mental power throughout the entire factory. It turned out that not only on the rooftop, but also inside the building, there were more than 10 people. Just as Lu Sheng was about to delve deeper with his mental power, he was abruptly awakened by Blue Hair pulling him aside. Lu Sheng then turned and walked away, indicating he would go back first and let them proceed by themselves. I should have done the mission alone. What need for such incompetent teammates? Blue Hair didn't understand why she suddenly felt a chilling panic inside. Could it be because it was her first time handling a AA level mission with an underwhelming partner, causing her nerves to be overly tense? Forget it. Better off without such a drag. She then called Meng Jianfei to move ahead, and the two climbed along the factory wall until they reached the rooftop. Just moving a little further up should enable them to assess the opponent's strength. The next moment, Blue Hair saw Meng Jianfei's legs stiffen and hurriedly asked what was wrong. Meng Jianfei looked terrified, as inside the building, a group of martial artists was arguing, and then the team leader Wang Dabiao yelled in anger, "Why should you alone take 30% when so many of us are involved?" Ma Guiyun, sipping coffee calmly, responded, "The initial work was done by me. The plan and the tools were also provided by me. You guys are just here to kill a few people. Don't I deserve the 30%? After some arguing, the underlings could only compromise to give him 20%. Little did the two outside know, they were already shivering in fear, as they could clearly sense at least 8 level 6 martial artists inside, along with a bunch of level 4 and 5 underlings. This was not something they could handle at the moment. The difficulty of this level was probably at S level. They needed to hurry back and report, as preserving their lives was the priority. Thus, Blue Hair and Meng Jianfei sneak out of the factory perimeter, only to unexpectedly encounter members of a raiding squad. At that moment, one of Ma Guiyun's men said, "Our boss gave them a chance to join us, and they want to take the lion's share." But the bald man was indifferent, saying, "Once we hijack this batch of supplies, our boss Ma Guiyun will be able to break through to Grandmaster level. Then we'll have nothing to fear from them." Hearing this, the two students were already terrified, wetting themselves with fear, and dared not make a sound. The two exchanged glances and nodded at each other. "Run now, or our lives are over." They're planning to seize strategic materials. No wonder they gathered so many people. 8 level 6 martial artists and their firearms could easily take over the entire coastal city. This outlaw Grandmaster is not someone we little kids can handle. All we can do is rush back to the school and report. However, when they had fled halfway, they realized they had forgotten to bring Lu Sheng, the rookie, with them. But it was now impossible to go back. All they could do was hope that Lu Sheng had found a good hiding spot and would not be discovered. Meanwhile, a pair of large large feet slowly approached the leading bald man. Yo-ho, where did this stinky brat come from? The man with braids was about to continue taunting when a ball of fire struck his chin, causing him to die before he could finish his sentence. Seeing this, several men armed with weapons charged at Lu Sheng. But with just one move, Lu Sheng killed several level 6 martial artists. Among the 8 level 6s, including 2 at the peak, along with several level 5s and level 4s, Lu Sheng didn't expect the AA level mission to be this simple. Just as he was about to head towards the negotiation room inside, the bald man used all his strength to grab Lu Sheng's ankle, indicating that the gang leader would avenge him. Before he finished speaking, Lu Sheng sent him to heaven with a kick, dead and still so much to say. But this seemed to be the first time Lu Sheng had killed someone, yet he felt no discomfort or agitation. Rather, the pent-up desires for destruction and devastation inside him dissipated quite a bit. Perhaps it was because he had hunted too many zombies in dream space, or maybe it was because he inherited too many bloody memories, or perhaps it was because these men were utterly vile, making it feel guiltless to kill them. Then Lu Sheng walked straight ahead. Now it's time to eradicate evil for the people. Meanwhile, inside, several groups were still quarreling violently over their shares when Ma Guiyun, who was sitting on the side, stood up slowly and punched one of them. I told you, the plan was my idea. The tools were provided by me, and I have the biggest say here. Do I really need your disagreement on how much I take? He then authoritatively addressed his underlings. If anyone else has objections, they can leave now. I won't stop them. His directness left his underlings angry, but unable to speak out. Just then, someone walked in. We are all partners. Why should we harm our good relations over such petty profits? Right, Brother Ma Guiyun? I've been saying Brother Ma is aiming for the Grandmaster level, so it's only right for you to take a larger share. It's rare among us bandits to have a potential Grandmaster. Here's a cigarette. Congratulations in advance to Brother Ma on reaching Grandmaster level. But just like you want to become a Grandmaster, I want it too, so I also need 30%. Hearing this, Ma Guiyun's eyes hardened, feeling a murderous urge, but he could do nothing about his opponent, because this ghost-faced vulture was the only one who could match him in strength. Not only a level 6 peak, but also a rare elemental control talent martial artist. It is said that he was originally a top student, but a fire that killed his entire family drastically changed his personality, leading him to become a ruthless bandit who likes to burn people alive. Just as the air grew still, a loud noise came from the main door outside. The crowd remained calm, saying, "It's probably the police coming. Kill them, and we'll move somewhere else to talk." However, just as a subordinate was about to kill, a large door flew in, sending him flying back dozens of meters. At that moment, a red spear slowly appeared, with Lu Sheng gripping the spear, now in everyone's sight. Seeing that the newcomer was just a kid without even a full set of whiskers, the bandits scoffed in disdain. But then, Lu Sheng held up 2 fingers and said, "I'll give you 2 minutes to run if you want to save your lives." The bandits looked at Lu Sheng as if he were a fool. What are you supposed to be? Have the cops run out of people, sending this rookie to die? Even the usually composed Ma Guiyun was puzzled. This looks just like a kid. In the midst of talking, unable to hold back, Lu Rian swung her large sword towards Lu Sheng. Just as the blade was 2 centimeters away from Lu Sheng, he dodged to the side and counterattacked, resulting in Sister Lu's decapitation. Everyone's mouths dropped open. At this point, anyone could see that there was something odd about Lu Sheng, especially since Sister Lu was nearly a level 6 martial artist. Following that, Ma Guiyun advised his underlings, "Don't confront him directly. We need to be sneaky." He could tell that the weapon in the kid's hand was likely a Grandmaster level weapon. Let's mob him. Hearing that it was a Grandmaster level weapon, one of the underlings drooled. This is a valuable item, worth a few $100 million by itself. Several underlings then attacked Lu Sheng together. Kid, don't think just because you have a good weapon you can do whatever you want. Your own strength is what's most important. Faced with several bandits rushing in, Lu Sheng's eyes narrowed, and as before, the group was killed on the spot by several spear thrusts. Watching several men fall to the ground within 2 seconds, Lu Sheng's strength became an enigma once again, as the situation was too bizarre. If previously Lu Rian's death could be attributed to his reliance on the weapon, now with so many level 6 martial artists dead, one had to suspect the kid's formidable strength. At this moment, a murderous intent surged in Lu Sheng's heart, his body ablaze with flames. "Since you won't come to me, then it's my turn to attack." Lu Sheng switched to the wind-breathing technique. Seeing this, Ghost-Faced Vulture urgently yelled, "This kid is almost a Grandmaster." While speaking, Ghost-Faced Vulture quickly fled, but Lu Sheng wasn't about to let him escape. The next moment, Ghost-Faced Vulture suddenly turned around, cackling with laughter as flames surged around him. "Who said I was running away?" Then, Ghost-Faced Vulture clapped his hands together, and a large fireball of high temperature engulfed Lu Sheng. Ghost-Faced Vulture grinned widely. "See, you will die in my endless sea of fire." The next moment, a voice made him pee himself in fear. "You call that fire?" Lu Sheng's figure appeared at the center of the sea of fire, and with a flick of his finger, he said, "Let's see what real fire is." Then, a small purple flame shot towards Ghost-Faced Vulture's chest. The next moment, the purple flame quickly spread over his entire body, and Ghost-Faced Vulture screamed in agony like a demon. In an instant, the purple flame spread rapidly rapidly, turning into a fiery tornado that engulfed ghost-faced Vulture. His screams grew fainter and fainter, while Ma Guiyun's face turned ashen. A level 6 martial artist's bones are as tough as steel, with a boiling point of 2,750 degrees. But looking at this fire, I still feel mine is a bit stronger. Lu Xing calmly watched Ma Guiyun and asked, "Have you decided how you want to die?" On the other side, the two teammates, unable to rest easy, decided to sneak back to the entrance to check the situation. What the hell is going on here? They saw several bandits down on the ground. "This kid is strong, all with one-hit kills." Blue Hair scoffed, "They're just minions." But looking at the situation at the entrance, Blue Hair was puzzled. Could it be that the dumb kid really charged in? After that, they decided to sneak back inside and prepare for combat just in case. The next moment, they were stunned. Walking along the corridor, they found bodies everywhere, unable to believe that the foolish kid did all this, so they moved further inside. At that moment, they heard a heart-wrenching scream and both exclaimed in shock, "It's Ma Guiyun." As the words fell, Ma Guiyun was split in two. The killer was Lu Xing, holding a long spear. Only at the last moment did they believe that all of this was Lu Xing's doing. Seeing his teammates arrive, Lu Xing called out, "You're just a step late. The bandit suppression is completed." Then Lu Xing walked straight out of the factory, leaving the two to handle the aftermath. It wasn't until Lu Xing had left that the two collapsed on the ground, clearly frightened by the terrifying figure of the great demon they had just witnessed. They even thought they were dreaming. What kind of monster had the 7th Saints Martial University really recruited? Meanwhile, as Lu Xing got into a taxi to return, a message on his phone broke the silence. It was from Fatty, asking where Lu Xing was, as someone had come to challenge the 7th Martial Sage Tower. Thus, Lu Xing hurried back to the school. However, for Lu Xing, the bandit suppression mission was also a significant gain. A group of bandits, abundant in vital energy and blood and extremely vicious, was perfect for sharpening his dragon pattern spear. Lost in thought, Fatty came running over with a trident on his back and quickly asked Lu Xing how difficult this mission was and if it was thrilling. When he heard that Lu Xing had dealt with the bandits, he exclaimed in surprise, "Damn, Brother Shin, you actually killed someone." Lu Xing hadn't expected such a strong reaction from Fatty, but then again, it made sense, since they were still just 17 or 18 years old, and killing was indeed too cruel for them. Just as Lu Xing was about to reassure Fatty that they were only despicable villains, he saw Fatty looking excitedly at him. "Next time, we should also take on some bounty hunter missions. It must be thrilling." Lu Xing was baffled. Does this Fatty have a gene for violence or what? As they were talking, several students passed by, shouting, "It's over. The Martial Sage Tower can't be held now." Lu Xing slowly asked Fatty what guarding the tower meant. Fatty hurriedly explained that basically, it was Miao Rinxiong, ranked 7th on the 7 Saints list and representing the 4th Holy Martial University, who had come to challenge the tower. Seeing Lu Xing's astonished face, Fatty continued explaining that the 7 Saints list was like an upgraded version of the Elder Student list, which ranks the strength of undergraduate students from sophomore to senior at the 7 Saint Martial Universities, with the current leaders being Chen Yixian and Xiao Lan. The 7 Saints list, however, is a more authoritative ranking of all the elder students at the 7 Saint Martial Universities. Everyone listed is a top genius of the younger generation. Fatty sighed helplessly. The 7th Saints Martial University can't make it into the top 10 of the 7 Saints list. Not even the school's top student, Chen Yixian, who ranks only 13th. It looks like we can't hold the tower anymore. This will turn the 7th Saints Martial University into a joke. For the next year, we won't even have the privilege of entering the Martial Sage Tower. We'll have to apply and queue up like students from other schools and martial artists, maybe even for half a year. Hearing this, Lu Xing was shocked. "What? I have to queue for half years to get in?" With that, he left Fatty staring in surprise as he flew towards the Martial Sage Tower. Seeing this, Fatty laughed. Could it be that Brother Shin is planning to defend the tower now? On the other side, the area in front of the 7th Martial Sage Tower was now crowded with all sorts of people. The students of the 7th Saints Martial University were currently stomping their feet in anger. Today was undoubtedly a day of great humiliation for them. If they couldn't hold the tower this time, they would have to compete with students from other schools for spots. At that moment, the crowd shouted that someone was coming out. It turned out to be Chen Yixian, holding his head. Chen Yixian's expression was one of excruciating pain, clearly suffering backlash from pushing himself beyond his limits. The students were as if struck by thunder upon seeing this. Even Chen Yixian, the top student, had failed here, and they could hardly imagine who else could hold the tower. Now, Chen Yixian had stopped at the 20th floor, ending his challenge. Chen Yixian stared blankly at the panel. As a student of the 7th Saints Martial University, he was as familiar with this Martial Saint Tower as his own front door for 4 whole years, yet he still couldn't match the outsider Miao Rinxiong. He felt deeply aggrieved and embarrassed because he couldn't protect what was his teeth grinding audibly with frustration. This scene not only caused onlookers from other schools to mock, but it also embarrassed the 7th Saints Martial University thoroughly, seeing them usually so arrogant, and yet they crumbled when faced with someone stronger. Just then, the two felt someone pushing them and turned around to look, only to realize realize it was an invisible force of mental energy making way. Who possessed such formidable power? Look, it's Lu Sheng, the top freshman of the year. I heard that at the start of the school year, he thrashed all the new students and even defeated a spear technique instructor. At this moment, the bystanders were unclear about Lu Sheng's purpose for coming. Could he also be here to defend the tower? Your 7th Saints Martial University is really something. Letting a newcomer on the freshman list challenge the 6th ranker on the 7 Saints list. It's one thing for the old guard to be ineffective, but now you're pinning your hopes on a freshman. Lu Sheng paid no heed, walking straight towards the entrance with his dragon pattern spear, then asked, "Miss, I don't need to queue to enter the tower now, do I?" At this, the young lady also remembered that Lu Sheng, this handsome newbie, had never entered the tower before. How could they let him in to defend the tower? Subsequently, the young lady reluctantly handed the badge to Lu Sheng. In her eyes, the 7th Saints Martial University was now desperately grasping at straws. Seeing the young lady's worried expression, Lu Sheng confidently looked back. "Don't worry, I alone am enough. He won't break through." Elsewhere, Lu Sheng's newly acquired young fans were frantically searching for him. Everyone they asked told them that Lu Sheng had gone to carry out a AA level mission and wouldn't be back soon. Hearing this, Red Hair scratched her head in disappointment. In her view, only Lu Sheng could now preserve the school's reputation. A girl beside asked, "Who are you all rushing about searching for? You make it sound so mysterious." Red Hair answered listlessly, "Who it is doesn't matter now. The person isn't at school to prove it." The girl snorted and said, "All this secrecy, and now even that freshman Lu Sheng has gone to defend the tower. Our 7th Saints Martial University really is in desperate straits." Hearing about Lu Sheng, Red Hair's eyes sharpened, and she quickly grabbed the girl shouting, "What did you say? The freshman Lu Sheng?" The girl pointed to the billboard. "Look, he just went in 2 minutes ago. His name just got up there, still in last place." Seeing that it really was Lu Sheng, Red Hair's squad started dancing on the spot with excitement, and the girl, watching them with tears in her eyes, couldn't help but wonder, "I don't understand why they are so excited. Isn't Lu Sheng just a slightly impressive freshman?" On the other side, Lu Sheng looked around the empty tower interior, finding only a small machine in front. Reading the instructions, it seemed just like a video game. As Lu Sheng put on the helmet, his consciousness seemed to enter a space of consciousness. He was all too familiar with this feeling. Although there was a slight difference, it was like entering the dream world. With that in mind, Lu Sheng felt he wouldn't be doing justice to the zombies he had dispatched in his dreams if he didn't completely conquer the Martial Saint Tower. However, there were no zombies here. His only opponent here was Tan Zhongyu. A blue-green figure materialized in front, and the first level of the Martial Saint Tower was the young Tan Zhongyu. While Lu Sheng was still startled, the figure sprinted towards him and then punched Lu Sheng in the waist. As the breath from the palm dissipated, Lu Sheng was unharmed. The next moment, the young man was sent flying by Lu Sheng. It seemed that the kid's strength was around a level 2 martial artist. His attack on Lu Sheng not only failed, but was also rebounded by Lu Sheng's fierce energy, sending him flying. "I'm not one to let things go. If the Martial Saint hits me, I must hit back." With that, Lu Sheng punched out, and the young man vanished like smoke. Watching the scene, it seemed the force might have been a bit much, but the quickly dispersing young man turned into a stream of energy, reassembling somewhere else. It turned out that after absorbing Lu Sheng's mental power, the young man transformed back into Tan Zhongyu, who seemed to have grown a bit, so it gradually increases the difficulty like this. Soon, the young man quickly flashed behind Lu Sheng, but through this punch, Lu Sheng finally understood the principle of the Martial Saint Tower. With a kick from Lu Sheng, Tan Zhongyu disappeared again. So it was the same old pattern. During the fight, mental energy continually emerged, and this mental energy was attracted by another force, merging with previous energies to form a new Tan Zhongyu. So defeating an opponent not only doesn't provide any benefit, but instead continuously drains my mental power. Lu Sheng had previously considered that the Martial Saint Tower's trials might be linked to mental and willpower aspects, but he hadn't figured out how a year-long accumulation could provide mental trials for so many people. Even if it was the Martial Saint's will, it should have been exhausted long ago. It turns out that it is maintained through charging fees, taking a little bit at each level to stimulate the generation of Martial Saint opponents, and even collecting more than what is needed for generation, thereby continuously enlarging the Martial Saint's will. This is also why the 7th Saints Martial University's recruitment is not as good as the other 6 schools. The other schools have been established longer, and their Martial Saints will has grown larger like a snowball rolling downhill. And Tan Zhongyu is the founder of the 7th Saints Martial University, and the only existing Martial Saint among the 7 Saint Martial Universities, managing all affairs of these institutions. Moreover, breaking the record in the Martial Saint Tower offers a chance to receive his legacy. If the Martial Saint Tower operates as Lu Sheng analyzed, then his dream space operates on a similar principle. The dream space is likely generated based on the will of one or more martial arts powerhouses, and the dream space is much more sophisticated than the Martial Saint Tower. Considering the multitude of martial arts powerhouses expected over the next 10,000 years, as numerous as the stars, it's possible their combined wills could construct a world of mental power. Accompanied by the clicking clicking sound, Lu Xing quickly passed several levels, and his figure once again solidified into a man with a sword, presumably a version of Tan Zhongyu around the age of 20, perhaps a level 5 when he first attended university. But it was still no use, as he was directly shattered by a punch from Lu Xing. The next moment, a new Tan Zhongyu appeared, this one at a minor mastery of swordplay, at the point of breaking through to level 6. After a while, almost every figure failed to withstand even one move from Lu Xing. However, by this time, Tan Zhongyu had reached his 30s, appearing to be at least at the peak of level 6 in swordsmanship, once acclaimed as the #1 person below grandmasters among his peers. I've long heard that Tan Zhongyu was a late bloomer, only showing the semblance of a saint when he nearly stepped into the grandmaster realm. I am eager to see the strength of this #1 person below grandmasters. Both are now at level 6, but Lu Xing still opts to tear apart Tan Zhongyu barehanded, feeling that there is no need to use the spear yet. On the other hand, Miao Renxiong has already passed level 21 to reach level 22 and is still comfortably leading the chart. Currently, the highest record in the 7th Martial Saint Tower is the 22nd floor, and if Miao Renxiong advances another level, then it's game over. Qinyi Xian, who has been surpassed in one go, is trembling, finally understanding what true humiliation feels like, and also grasping the gap represented by the 7 saints list. The will to fight is slowly disintegrating in his heart. At that moment, a girl with a ponytail tried to comfort him, saying that Miao Renxiong wouldn't easily break through the 22nd floor, as it is a threshold, and Tan Martial Saint, who is accomplished in peak level 6 swordsmanship, isn't easily defeated. Trembling, Qinyi Xian responded, "What if Miao Renxiong gets lucky and passes? Wouldn't I become the criminal of the 7th Saints Martial University?" At that moment, the crowd shouted, "Look, Lu Xing's tower breaking speed is so fast. In the blink of an eye, Lu Xing has reached the 12th floor. No, it's already the 15th floor. No, it's already the 21st floor. He has transcended Qinyi Xian, currently ranked 2nd. In an instant, everyone's mouths hung open, dumbfounded. But before the crowd could react, Lu Xing's ranking had already surpassed Miao Renxiong, who was first. Some outsiders started accusing the 7th Saints Martial University of being sore losers, even daring to falsify scores in the Martial Saint Tower. Not just outsiders, even Qinyi Xian and others were incredulous, given the unbelievably fast speed of breaking the tower. At that moment, the registrar came out to clarify, the core of the Martial Saint Tower is the will of the Martial Saint. Are you saying that the Martial Saint is protecting Lu Xing? Hearing this, the crowd acknowledged their mistake. We didn't mean to blame the Martial Saint, it's just that the score looks very fake. During the argument, Lu Xing's ranking reached the 25th floor, setting a new record for the 7th Martial Saint Tower. Currently, only Red Hair believed this was truly Lu Xing's own strength. Red Hair shouted excitedly, "That's right, I knew it. This is Lu Xing." Fatty and others from the same school watched the screen, their mouths agape. Damn, Brother Shin is overpowered again. At this time, Lu Xing was enveloped in flames, perhaps even forgetting which floor he was on. In the midst of speaking, another Tan Zhongyu was defeated. However, Lu Xing was starting to feel a bit strained. It was Tan Zhongyu, after all. If it had been a week earlier, before Lu Xing had mastered physical strength control in the cold weapons training room, he might not have dominated this much. The next moment, Lu Xing clutched his head in pain, as waves of mental power continuously emerged, the mental challenge of this level visibly causing him pain. If it were any other student, they probably would have given up by now. The next moment, a figure wrapped in blue energy slowly fell. It looked like the next threshold was coming out. Grandmaster level Tan Zhongyu. Before Lu Xing could make a move, Tan Zhongyu's body burst forth with a dark energy, this domineering grandmaster's aura overwhelming Lu Xing. It is said that Tan Zhongyu became a grandmaster at 42, battling 8 grandmasters in the same month, achieving 7 wins and 1 draw. Then, 10 suns also slowly rose around Lu Xing. Come on, Grandmaster Tan Zhongyu, let's see whether your sword can split this orb of daylight, or if you burn up first. Lu Xing soared toward Tan Zhongyu like a meteor. Today, I will confront you, a true grandmaster with level 9 prowess, with my level 6 status. At this moment, Lu Xing tried to break through Tan Zhongyu's defenses with his overwhelmingly powerful flames. However, Tan Zhongyu merely gathered energy into his sword, and then, under Lu Xing's astonished gaze, a terrifying force that seemed capable of splitting heaven and earth flew towards Lu Xing's forehead. Logically, Lu Xing should have been fine, but this strike left him somewhat disheveled. It was the first time Lu Xing had seen such a fearsome slash. His fierce energy and control-level flames crumbled like tofu upon impact. However, this was just what Lu Xing wanted, as he hadn't had such an exhilarating fight in a long time. Stimulated by this life-and-death battle, Lu Xing's martial arts skills advanced further, bringing him one step closer to the second form of the complete martial path. This time, Tan Zhongyu calmly raised his long sword again, then a domineering sword aura with lightning condensed in his palm. In an instant, before Lu Xing could even reach him, several strikes of lightning and sword aura surrounded Lu Xing. But this time, Lu Xing did not intend to dodge. He concentrated his stellar-connected fierce energy into one point, as if holding a star, with solar flares at his fingertips, mastering the star itself. This was the stellar body refinement secret technique, the stellar grip. At this moment, the 10 Suns ascendancy also continuously unleashed, with various attacks reaching a climactic phase. Meanwhile, in the vice principal's office, the vice principal incredulously looked at the information board. 8 level 6 martial artists, including 2 at the peak of level 6 and those with high-level elemental control talents, had all been cleanly killed by Lu Sheng alone, with a crushing force akin to sweeping away decayed wood. The AA level mission was directly upgraded to AAA, and the chief of Riverside City Police had even personally written a thank you letter of nearly 10,000 words. This kid, I originally thought he would need some time to lay low before making a move, but who knew he'd surprise me like this all of a sudden? Such unparalleled combat power, invincible among his peers, just like the martial saint from the St. Martial University in the old days. However, such talent and strength have surely drawn the attention of Martial Saint. Before the vice principal could fully process his shock, a teacher burst through the door. Vice principal, there's an emergency at the Martial Saint Tower. The vice principal waved his hand nonchalantly. What's the rush? The result from defending the tower is out, isn't it? If we lost, we lost. The Martial Saint Tower was set up by the Martial Saint to encourage competition. Just notify the 4th St. Martial University directly. But the teacher exclaimed, this has nothing to do with the 4th St. Martial University. It's Lu Sheng. He has broken our 7th Saint's Martial Tower's record. He's now reached the 26th floor. At this moment, the students felt an unprecedented pressure as all the vice principals of the school mobilized collectively. The vice principal was sweating. Lu Sheng, what other surprises are you going to bring me? The principals were shocked. We hurried over as soon as Lu Sheng reached the 26th floor. Could it be that he has broken through another level in this short interval? The bearded principal spoke up. Previously, the Martial Saint said that anyone under 30 who breaks the 23rd floor may be summoned by him. Those who break the 24th floor may receive his guidance for 7 days, and those who break the 25th floor may enter his school. Yet, this Lu Sheng has reached the terrifying 27th floor. After saying this, the bespectacled principal shouted loudly, indicating that after this incident, they would co-sign a report to the higher-ups. Hearing this, the students were shocked, truly not expecting that Lu Sheng could enter the Martial Saint's school just after arriving. But thinking about it, it makes sense. He shattered the Martial Saint Tower. Probably no one will match him for the next 50 years. And this Lu Sheng will also become the strongest student in the history of the 7 St. Martial Universities. At this moment, Fatty chimed in, no, I'm afraid not even in 100 years could anyone surpass my brother Sheng. Awesome is not enough to describe him anymore. It looks like all I can do in this life is cling to brother Sheng's coattails. On the other side, someone shouted that Lu Sheng was too monstrous, wondering why there had been no signs before. Hearing this, Red Hair immediately shoved her phone in front of a bystander, which surprisingly recorded all of Lu Sheng's incredible deeds at school. Red Hair proudly said, I posted about Lu Sheng's strength a long time ago. He cleared the 5th stage of the training room, but no one believed it. As bystanders watched the scenes in the post, they were dumbfounded. If all recorded in there were true, what a terrifying existence Lu Sheng would be. Meanwhile, this battle of martial arts and clash of wills with Tan Zhongyu was a rare and valuable tempering for Lu Sheng's path to Grandmaster. Lu Sheng, supporting his trembling body, slowly said, Tan Zhongyu, you are indeed strong, but I am stronger. As soon as he finished speaking, Tan Zhongyu's Grandmaster form began to dissipate more slowly than usual, as if laying the groundwork for something. As his body gradually vanished, a strong light burst forth. Seizing the moment of his opponent's dissolution, Lu Sheng immediately activated his technique to heal his injuries. Lu Sheng looked at his right hand, satisfied. His grand vision meditation was nearly perfect. Perhaps after another life and death battle, it could fully form, and then he would be ready to officially challenge the level 7 Grandmaster realm. The next moment, Lu Sheng abruptly stood up, a burst of blue-green aura exploding around him. He slowly looked up at the sky, where the dissipating figure turned into a dazzling orb of light, and suddenly, the great Grandmaster Tan Zhongyu appeared, standing like a deity above. To Lu Sheng's surprise, this time it seemed that no mental energy was being absorbed. It appeared that the Martial Saint Tower had been accumulating power all along for this moment. Lu Sheng, holding the Holy Spear, shouted, come on, let's fight with all our might. This time, Lu Sheng used all his power without reservation, preparing for the final battle. Red Hair and others, seeing him stuck at the 27th floor for a long time, thought that was Lu Sheng's limit, but unexpectedly, he broke through to the 28th floor. This level, even beyond the reach of all the principals, showed how incredibly strong a freshman could be, leaving them nowhere to hide their aged faces. Ding, the challenge has ended. Eventually, Lu Sheng set a new record with the 28th floor. The bespectacled principal stared dreamily towards the tower's entrance, and the students and onlookers crowded at the gate, wanting to witness Lu Sheng's glorious moment firsthand. With a creak, the first to come out was Miao Renxiong. Miao Renxiong was also puzzled. Although he came to challenge the tower, he didn't expect so many people waiting at the door. Miao Renxiong laughed heartily, thinking everyone was stunned by his performance and had come to greet him. But a group of girls, seeing someone laughing so lewdly showed expressions of astonishment. Just then, Lu Xing from behind shouted, "Let Miao Renxiong pass through." Seeing Miao Renxiong not paying attention, still lost in his fantasy, the next moment Miao Renxiong did a 360-degree flip jump. "Sorry, you were in my way." Watching the arrogant figure ahead, Miao Renxiong became enraged. "Damn it, when have I ever been treated like this?" He immediately swung his massive fist towards Lu Xing. "Fuck you, you little shit. Even the big shots at your school don't dare to be this arrogant with me. Do you know who you're talking to?" As the dust settled, Lu Xing grabbed Miao Renxiong with one hand. "What's up? You think it's okay to block the way? Also, who did you say you are?" As soon as the words left his mouth, Lu Xing tightened his grip, almost ending Miao Renxiong's life right there. The next moment, Lu Xing flung him, sending Miao Renxiong flying dozens of meters. The minions who had followed him were stunned. Having been with their boss for so many years, they knew his strength, but this was the first time they saw him being manhandled by someone of the same level. Not just them, other students were also shocked, their stunned gazes slow to recover, because at this moment, a new legend was born, a legend about Lu Xing. Fatty shouted to break the silence. "Wow, that's awesome. That's the strength of my brother Shen." Next, the 7 St. Martial Universities was about to enter an era dominated by Lu Xing. Everyone began to shout, "Lu Xing, the strongest in history, so awesome, invincible, invincible." That Miao Renxiong from the 7 Saints list, he's nothing. People even started to take pride in having been beaten up by Lu Xing themselves. In just 2 minutes, Lu Xing received countless praises. Seeing this, Chen Yixian remarked, "What old student list? What 7 Saints list? It seems they can no longer contain this great Buddha." Seeing this, the principals also turned and left, because this moment was when Lu Xing had upheld the school's honor, and they left the atmosphere for them to thoroughly enjoy. On the other side, the seniors from other schools were shocked, as the long stagnant record of the 7th Martial Saint Tower had been broken by a freshman. Senior sister Yang Yuan, "Let's hurry up and find your friend, and head back as soon as we're done." But Yang Yuan slowly indicated that there was no need anymore, because the person she wanted to see had already been seen, but because he was too dazzling, now she could only watch from afar, fearing she no longer had the right to approach. Hearing this, he was so shocked that his hair stood on end. "What the hell? You don't mean to say the person you wanted to find was Lu Xing, do you?" "Ah, I'm not saying it, but you really do have a vain side." By this time, Lu Xing was already surrounded by fans wanting to take pictures, and it seemed he wouldn't be free for a while. Hearing the senior's words, Yang Yuan turned around with a dark expression. "You're right, he is too dazzling, and I was too presumptuous." The next moment, the senior grabbed Yang Yuan, saying disdainfully, "Oh, senior sister Yang Yuan, don't be mad. I didn't mean it. I believe. Isn't that enough?" Seeing his playboy demeanor, Yang Yuan coldly said, "Senior, I appreciate that you came out with me to find someone. Please mind your words and actions." Yellow Hair was just about to continue teasing, but was abruptly grabbed by the head by Fatty. "Hey, are you deaf? Didn't you hear to let go? You're pretty bold, daring to lay hands on Brother Shen's woman." But Fatty felt something was off with his grasp, like when hitting someone, why couldn't he achieve the same domineering effect as Brother Shen? Afterwards, seeing Yang Yuan's surprised reaction, Fatty explained, "I am Lu Xing's friend. Brother Shen asked me to come over and tell you to stay for a meal later. He noticed you were here, but it's not easy for him to get away right now. I'll take Shen's sister-in-law around for a bit first." Ha! Hearing this, Yang Yuan blushed profusely and hurriedly clarified that she and Lu Xing were not in that kind of relationship. Meanwhile, Yellow Hair on the ground felt despair upon hearing this, not expecting her to actually be Lu Xing's friend. The next morning, Lu Xing was called to the principal's office. Even the principal, who had seen many geniuses over the years, was amazed. The principal then explained, "Normally, refreshing the Martial Saint Tower record comes with academic credit rewards, but your case is a bit special and needs re-evaluation, so we'll notify you as soon as the credits are processed." Lu Xing hadn't expected that breaking through the tower would also yield academic credits. The vice principal mentioned that any school's Martial Saint Tower, if someone refreshes the record, would receive academic credit rewards from their respective St. Martial University. The next moment, the vice principal suddenly thought of something and asked in surprise, "Lu Xing, you aren't planning on graduating early, are you?" Hearing this, Lu Xing nodded and said if possible, he would like to graduate as soon as he can. The vice principal exclaimed, "Damn, you've only been in school for a few days, probably haven't even met all the teachers yet." But seeing Lu Xing so certain, the vice principal couldn't say much and only instructed Lu Xing to go back, promising to notify him as soon as there was news about the credits. After Lu Xing left, the vice principal slowly picked up the phone. "Hello, it's me. I think, let's wait a bit longer." The person on the other end of the phone asked why he was deliberately delaying, to which the vice principal slowly turned back and said lightly, "Because it seems Lu Xing's show has just begun." The news of freshman Lu Xing breaking the Martial Saint Tower record spread throughout the entire school. The title of the strongest freshman in the history of the 7th Saints Martial University belonged to Lu Xing. How far is Lu Xing from becoming a grandmaster? Could the first in-school grandmaster in history be born? Is Wen Jingxian, the current #1 on the 7 Saints list, enough to take on Lu Xing, who is using just one hand? All the questions and various images of Lu Sheng in battle were compiled into an extraordinary montage. The students of the 7th Saints Martial University were thrilled because from now on, they could finally hold their heads high, no longer feeling inferior to other Saint Martial universities. Lu Sheng became the male idol of all the girls in the school. Seeing the various comments and praises about him, Lu Sheng was dumbfounded, only able to remark that it's no wonder martial arts girls talk so straightforwardly and boldly. Lu Sheng apologized to Yang Yuan beside him. I didn't expect so many people today. Sorry for making you see such a scene. Yang Yuan smiled and said, it's okay, you're a busy person, and besides, your achievements are now too dazzling. Thinking about this made Yang Yuan look gloomy. She didn't know if she could still come to find Lu Sheng in the future. Seeing Yang Yuan's concerns, Lu Sheng said nonchalantly, it doesn't matter, come whenever you want. Afterward, Lu Sheng wondered if he could give his graduation an extra push. Since the Martial Saint Tower could earn academic credits, that would make things easier. The scene shifts to Miao Renxiong, who has returned to the 4th Saint Martial University, but his disheartened return inevitably sparked various rumors and gossip. By this time, the news had already spread throughout the entire campus. Some people at the 4th Saint Martial University couldn't believe that a freshman could be so powerful and thought instead that Miao Renxiong's abilities were greatly exaggerated, mocking him for embarrassing himself at another school and calling him a typical case of pretending to be smart but ending up looking foolish. Hearing these comments, Miao Renxiong's veins bulged with anger. Although furious, he did not want to argue with fools, choosing instead to endure it. However, seeing Miao Renxiong's lack of reaction, people intensified their mockery. Have you heard? They say Miao Renxiong was so scared by that freshman that he fainted on the spot, even soiling himself, pants full of it. Ha ha ha. The next moment, a food tray clattered to the ground. Miao Renxiong grabbed Yellow Hair by the neck. I've tolerated you for a long time. Dare say that again, and I'll crush your balls. Yellow Hair was immediately so frightened that he wet himself. This scene made the other students break out in cold sweats. They seemed to have forgotten that Miao Renxiong was ranked first on the senior list of the 4th Saint Martial University. Just as Miao Renxiong was about to beat Yellow Hair, a voice intervened. Enough, Miao Renxiong. Miao Renxiong, furious, turned and threw a punch at the speaker, but his powerful fist was easily blocked by a raised hand. This shocked Miao Renxiong into a cold sweat, for he was facing the last person he wanted to see. Lu Sheng spoke calmly. Miao Renxiong, have you never learned manners? This is the second time now. Also, I'm planning to challenge the tower at your school. Just came to give you a heads up. Any objections? Miao Renxiong dared not object and could only shake his head. The next moment, with a wave of his hand from the 7th Saint Martial University, Miao Renxiong was sent flying dozens of meters. No objections. Good. I'll be back soon. Miao Renxiong was thoroughly frightened and could only crouch down, trembling. At this moment, the students of the 4th Saint Martial University realized something was amiss, because Miao Renxiong was not weak. He was ranked 7th on the 7 Saints list and 1st on the senior list. Yet, this person before them handled Miao Renxiong like he was nothing. Now, crouching on the ground, Miao Renxiong trembled and cried out, he is Lu Sheng. Hearing this, the students were shocked. What? He is Lu Sheng from the 7th Saints Martial University. Lu Sheng has come to challenge the tower. They hurriedly called others, summoning the top 10 back. Why even call anyone else? Miao Renxiong doesn't even dare to fart now. The next moment, a voice arose from behind. Just because Miao Renxiong got scared doesn't mean we are too. The newcomers were Yang Jingcan, ranked 2nd, and Feng Mei Song, ranked 3rd. Yang Jingcan, licking her whip, mocked. I too am curious to see just how formidable this freshman who scared Miao Renxiong is. With their addition, the students' fighting spirit was instantly ignited, collectively shouting, the 4 great martial artists are undeterred. Let's defeat Lu Sheng. Let's go. The next moment, reality proved them wrong. The 4th Martial Saint Tower's record was also broken by Lu Sheng with 28 floors. At the same time, the geniuses of the 5th Saint Martial University held an emergency meeting with videos of Lu Sheng playing on the screen. The leading white-haired man spoke. This year, the 7th Saints Martial University has a freak, a monster among the new students, and I'm sure you all know he's called Lu Sheng, this year's Eastern Rising Brightness General Star. Then, the man continued to recount Lu Sheng's exploits. An impatient girl interrupted. Jingyu, cut the crap and just say what we should do. The man could only awkwardly shake his head, indicating he was powerless. Within half a day, Lu Sheng broke records in 2 towers, earning the name of a devil across the 7 Saint Martial Universities. While they were speaking, someone shouted from the door, it's bad. Lu Sheng is here. Under the gaze of the 5th Saint Martial University's students, Lu Sheng directly took down the 5th Saint Martial Tower. Several refining sessions of Grandmaster will later, Lu Sheng's spiritual power had greatly increased, seemingly breaking through to level 6. Moreover, under the pressure he created, the complete martial path smoothly entered its second form. The second form of complete martial path, where power is concentrated, pinpointed explosions, weaknesses discerned, control intricate mastery, and even predictive capabilities added. That feeling of being all-knowing and all-powerful became more apparent. Since Lu Sheng entered the second form of complete martial path, he even felt like he was ascending to godhood. Although it was an illusion, following this path could one day become a true god of martial arts. Just after stepping out of the tower, Fatty was already waiting at the entrance of the 5th St. Martial University to greet Lu Sheng as he triumphantly returned. Fatty excitedly shouted, "Congratulations, Brother Shin, on breaking another tower. So, are we heading to another St. Martial University now?" Lu Sheng checked the time, thought it was still early, and then asked Fatty to call a cab to go to the 6th St. Martial University. To his surprise, Fatty, with a grand gesture, had already called for a ride. In an instant, hundreds of cars were crammed along the roadside. Lu Sheng, baffled, looked behind him, unsure what was going on. Unbeknownst to him, once Lu Sheng got in the car, a large group of students also started hailing cabs. "Brother Shin is leaving, let's follow him." Even a driver, who had been in the business for over 50 years, was startled by the scene and hurriedly asked if the 7 St. Martial Universities were hosting a major event. Seeing this, a student excitedly replied, "Ah, yes, we are about to witness the birth of a dynasty." The driver exclaimed, "What? These kids are crazy." Meanwhile, at the 6th St. Martial University, there was a frantic shout, "He's coming, he's coming, Lu Sheng is here." They saw Lu Sheng slowly stepping out of the car, followed by a group of underlings. The students were alarmed. "What do we do? Oh my god, this setup is just like that of a devil." A voice rang out, "Look, it's Shin Kong, ranked first among the seniors. He has come forward." Shin Kong looked loftily ahead. "So you are Lu Sheng, here to challenge the tower, right?" Lu Sheng calmly responded, "Ah yes, may I help you?" Shin Kong's face fell. "May I help you? I came specifically to show you the way." The sudden change in tone broke the hearts of the students of the 6th Institute. Half an hour later, Lu Sheng broke the 6th St. Martial Tower's record with 29 floors. Students from the 7th St. Martial University followed behind him, shouting and cheering excitedly. Shin Kong could only respond with tears. "What can I do? Let him break the record. After all, it's not just our face that's lost." Under Lu Sheng's leadership, within just half a day, he had already broken the records of the 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd Martial St. Towers. Now, Lu Sheng was slowly standing at the entrance of the 1st St. Martial University. A voice rang out, "It's you, right? The devil of the 7 St. Martial Universities, Lu Sheng." The blinding light instantly dazzled everyone's eyes. As the smoke cleared, the voice rang out again, "Do you know where you are? Daring to run wild here?" Lu Sheng responded lightly, "I'm here to challenge the tower. How could I not know?" The person standing in front was Bai Hengchuan, ranked 2nd on the 7 Saints list. He coldly said, "The founder of the 1st St. Martial University was the first martial saint to emerge in our Dragon Nation. In terms of history and heritage, none of these newer martial universities can compare to us. You may seek fame, but if you want to step over the face of the 1st St. Martial University, you must first ask if my sword agrees." As Bai Hengchuan thrust his great sword into the ground, a world of ice and snow formed instantly underfoot, freezing Lu Sheng's legs in blocks of ice. "I heard you're this year's Ascending Dragon. Coincidentally, I was once the Ascending Dragon too." Fatty and the others were so scared that they dared not move. Bai Hengchuan had actually condensed Grandmaster will, albeit just a trace, but it was a genuine manifestation of his own martial will, which surely meant he would reach Grandmaster status within 10 years. Hearing the discussions around him, Bai Hengchuan laughed loudly. "Do you now understand the depth of the 1st Martial University?" Lu Sheng sighed softly. "Grandmaster will, ha, to have formed your own Grandmaster will at such a young age in this era is indeed commendable." Hearing this, Bai Hengchuan flew into a rage. "Is that the tone of appreciation from a senior to a junior? What are you playing at?" As they spoke, Bai Hengchuan, wielding his great sword, flew towards Lu Sheng. "I'll freeze you into an ice sculpture and then shatter you. See if you can still pretend then." Lu Sheng softly replied, "Is this your ice martial will? Compared to her, you are far too weak." Amidst the incredulous looks of the onlookers, a fiercely burning flame rose in front of Lu Sheng, instantly melting the surrounding ice and snow. Bai Hengchuan was dumbfounded. What in the world is this? So hot, so dazzling, it's like the sun. Under this intense heat, his realm of ice crumbled. Lu Sheng approached him and said lightly, "Actually, it's not coincidental at all. If you were in my class, you could only be 2nd best." At this moment, a few figures slowly stood behind him. "If this child enters the Grandmaster level within 5 years, he will surely have the stature of a martial saint."